If someone ignores you, there comes a moment in life when you realize not everyone will see your worth. Some people will ignore you, underestimate you, even pretend you don't exist. But here's the truth. Their ignorance does not define your value. Their silence does not diminish your voice. And their indifference, it's just fuel for your fire. If someone ignores you, don't shrink, rise. If they look past you, make sure they regret it. Because the world has a habit of noticing those who refuse to stay invisible. Just because someone chooses not to acknowledge you does not mean you are invisible. The world is vast, and the opinions of a few do not determine your existence or significance. Too often we base our self-worth on how others perceive us, on whether they notice us, appreciate us, or validate our presence. But the truth is, your light is not dependent on their gaze. A diamond remains a diamond, whether it's in the spotlight or buried deep underground. It does not lose its value just because someone fails to recognize it. Think about the greatest names in history, the innovators, the creators, the game changers. Many of them were ignored, dismissed, and underestimated before they became impossible to overlook. They did not let the world's indifference dull their brilliance. They kept going, kept shining, until the world had no choice but to pay attention. That is your power too. When someone ignores you, it is not a reflection of your worth, but rather a limitation of their vision. Some people simply do not have the capacity to see the greatness in front of them. Some are too distracted, too preoccupied with their own insecurities, or too blind to recognize the energy you bring into a space. But none of that is your problem. You were not born to be validated by others. You were born to embrace yourself fully and radiate confidence, whether they acknowledge it or not. Never shrink yourself to fit into someone's limited perception. Do not dim your light just because someone refuses to see it. Keep shining, keep moving forward, and trust that the right people, those who truly see you, will find their way into your life. When someone ignores you, dismisses your presence, or fails to acknowledge your worth, it can feel like rejection. And rejection, no matter how strong you are, stings. It raises questions in your mind. Am I not good enough? Did I do something wrong? Why don't they see me? But here's the truth. Rejection is not the end of your story. It is merely a redirection towards something better, something greater, something meant for you. Too often we cling to people, opportunities, or situations that are not aligned with our true purpose simply because we want to be seen, heard, and accepted. We chase validation from the wrong places, believing that if we just try harder, if we just prove ourselves more, we will earn the recognition we deserve. But that is not how life works. If someone chooses to ignore you, if a door closes in your face, it is because that path was never truly yours to walk. It is because life is pushing you towards something far greater, something you may not even realize you need. Think about the most successful people in the world. Their journeys were not smooth, and they were not always welcomed with open arms. They faced rejection multiple times from multiple sources. Actors were told they weren't talented enough. Entrepreneurs were laughed at for their ideas. Writers received hundreds of rejection letters before one publisher finally said yes. But what if they had let those rejections define them? What if they had given up the first time someone ignored their potential? They would have never discovered the success, recognition, and fulfillment that awaited them on the other side of persistence. Rejection is not a stop sign. It is a detour. It is life's way of saying, this is not where you are meant to be. Keep going. Imagine walking through a maze. You turn left only to hit a dead end. You turn right only to find another blocked path. It would be easy to sit down and give up, to think, maybe I'm not meant to make it out of this. But if you keep moving, if you keep searching, eventually you will find the open path, the one that leads you exactly where you need to be. That's what rejection does. It closes the wrong doors so you don't waste your time in places that don't deserve you. And sometimes the things we think we want are not actually what we need. Maybe you wanted that person's attention, but what if their presence in your life would have only brought you down? Maybe you wanted that job, but what if staying there would have prevented you from achieving something much bigger? Maybe you wanted to be part of that group, but what if their energy was never meant to align with yours? The universe has a way of protecting us, even when we don't see it in the moment. when you are ignored, when you feel overlooked, remind yourself that rejection is not about loss, it's about alignment. Instead of dwelling on why someone ignored you, shift your focus to what lies ahead. Use every rejection as fuel, every closed door as motivation. Let it strengthen you instead of breaking you. Let it push you forward instead of holding you back. The people who belong in your life, the opportunities that are truly meant for you, will never require you to beg for attention or fight for recognition. They will come naturally, effortlessly, because they align with your energy, your purpose, and your greatness. When someone ignores you, do not see it as a failure. See it as redirection. See it as the universe guiding you towards something better, something bigger, something meant just for you. Silence is a language of its own. When someone ignores you, it is easy to assume the worst, that you are not important, that you are not valued, that you are not worthy of attention. But silence does not always mean rejection. Sometimes silence is a revelation, exposing things you were not meant to see before. It teaches you who truly values you, who is invested in your presence, and who never deserved a seat at your table in the first place. In a world that is constantly speaking, constantly shouting for attention, silence is louder than words. It is in silence that people reveal their true priorities. If someone chooses not to respond to your presence, to your energy, or to your efforts, it is not an accident. It is a choice. And choices are powerful. They tell you everything you need to know about where you stand in someone's life. Pay attention to how people treat you in moments of silence, because that will tell you more about them than their words ever will. When a person ignores you, it is natural to want to chase answers, to demand explanations, to seek closure. You may find yourself overanalyzing every little detail, wondering what you did wrong, wondering why they don't see you, but here's the truth. Their silence is an answer in itself. If someone can ignore you without hesitation, without a second thought, then that tells you where you stand in their life. And if someone can live their life without acknowledging your presence, then maybe you were never meant to be a significant part of their journey. But silence does not only reveal the truth about others, it also teaches you about yourself. It forces you to confront your own insecurities, your own fears, and your own need for validation. It makes you ask yourself, why does this person's silence affect me so much? Why do I feel the need to be acknowledged by someone who does not see my worth? These are difficult questions, but they are necessary, because the moment you realize that your worth is not tied to someone else's recognition is the moment you set yourself free. Instead of fearing silence, learn to embrace it. Use it as a tool for growth, for clarity, for self-discovery. When someone ignores you, take a step back and observe. Do not react impulsively. Do not beg for attention. Do not lower your standards just to be noticed. Let silence do its work. Let it separate those who genuinely care from those who were only there for convenience. Let it show you who is willing to make an effort and who disappears when you are no longer useful to them. There is a certain power in not reacting to silence. When you refuse to chase, when you refuse to beg for acknowledgement, you reclaim your power. You show the world that your value is not dependent on external validation. You make it clear that you are not defined by the absence of someone's words, but by the strength of your own presence. And the people who truly matter, the people who truly see you, will never let silence stand between you. They will not make you question your worth. They will not force you to second guess your place in their lives. Because when people care, they show up. They don't ignore, they don't disappear, they don't stay silent when their presence is needed. Silence is not an insult. It is not a reflection of your value. It is simply a filter, revealing who is worthy of your time and energy and who is not. It is an opportunity for growth, for self-reflection, for understanding what and who truly matters. When you stop fearing silence, you start mastering the art of truly knowing yourself. Pain has a way of shaping us, molding us, and pushing us to grow in ways we never imagined. When someone ignores you, it can hurt deeply. It feels personal, like a wound that refuses to heal, like a question that has no answer. You may wonder what you did wrong, why they chose to overlook you, why your presence was not enough to hold their attention. But pain, when used correctly, is not just suffering, it is power. It is fuel. It is the very thing that can transform you into the strongest, most unshakable version of yourself. Think of every great success story. It was not born from comfort, from constant validation, or from an easy path. It was born from rejection, from being overlooked, from feeling invisible. It was born from someone telling them they weren't good enough, smart enough, talented enough. And instead of accepting that as truth, they turned that pain into motivation. They used it as fire to fuel their ambition, to sharpen their skills, to prove, not to the world, but to themselves, that they were destined for something bigger. Pain has a way of waking you up. It forces you to see the world differently, to shift your perspective, to ask yourself what you truly want and what you are willing to fight for. When someone ignores you, you have two choices. You can let it break you, let it fill you with self-doubt, let it make you feel like you are not enough, or you can use it. You can channel it into something greater. You can let it push you forward instead of holding you back. The most powerful thing you can do when someone ignores you is not to beg for their attention, not to question your worth, but to rise so high that they have no choice but to notice. Not because you need their validation anymore, but because you have grown into someone so unstoppable, so undeniable, that being ignored no longer affects you. The moment you realize that your value does not decrease just because someone fails to see it is the moment you become invincible. Pain is often misunderstood. People see it as a weakness, as something to avoid, something to fear. But the truth is, pain is one of the greatest teachers you will ever have. It forces you to dig deep, to find strength you never knew existed, to push past the limits you thought defined you. When you use pain as a tool instead of a burden, you become unstoppable. Every time someone ignores you, every time you feel overlooked, let that be a reminder that you are not meant to stay where you are. Growth happens in discomfort. Strength is built in the moments when you feel like giving up but choose to keep going anyway. And let's be clear, turning pain into power is not about revenge. It's not about proving anything to the people who ignored you. It's about proving something to yourself. It's about rising beyond the need for external approval. About building a life so full, so rich, so incredible that the opinions of others become background noise. Because at the end of the day, the only validation that truly matters is your own. When someone ignores you, don't shrink. Don't dim your light. Don't let it make you feel small. Instead, take that pain and let it fuel you. Let it drive you toward your dreams, your goals, your best self. Use it as a stepping stone, as a reason to keep pushing forward. The greatest revenge is not proving them wrong. It's proving yourself right. When it comes to embracing your authentic self, nothing is more powerful than staying unapologetically you. The world might try to mold you into a version that fits their expectations or dilute your brilliance so that you don't shine too bright, but your true essence is your most valuable asset. When you choose to be yourself, you are standing as a testament to your own strength, refusing to let external pressures or opinions define who you are. Every quirk, every passion, every dream is a part of the unique tapestry that makes you who you are. And that tapestry is far too precious to ever alter for someone else's comfort or approval. Living authentically means understanding that the journey toward self-acceptance is paved with challenges and moments of doubt, but it is also filled with discoveries that illuminate your inner light. When you decide to remain true to yourself, you reject the notion that you must fit into a predetermined mold. You recognize that life is too short to compromise on the values, beliefs, and aspirations that resonate with your soul. Instead of bending under the weight of others' expectations, you choose to carve your own path, making decisions that reflect the inner truth of who you are. This process of self-discovery requires courage, a bold willingness to stand out in a crowd, to speak up when silence would be easier, and to persist even when the road seems lonely. In a world that constantly offers comparisons and invites conformity, staying unapologetically you is a revolutionary act. It is an assertion that your identity, with all its nuances, is something to be celebrated rather than hidden away. The moments when you feel pressure to dim your sparkle or to mute your vibrant voice are precisely the moments when you must remind yourself that you are not here to satisfy someone else's narrative. Every time you choose authenticity over acceptance, you send a message that your self-worth is not negotiable. It is not about seeking validation from the crowd. It is about honoring your inner calling and trusting that your path, however unconventional it may seem, is uniquely yours. Embracing your individuality also means acknowledging that imperfection is not only natural, but also beautiful. There is no need to apologize for the scars you bear or the imperfections that make you human. Each experience, every stumble, and every triumph adds depth to your character and builds a story that is worth telling. When you allow yourself the freedom to be imperfect, you create space for growth, for learning, and for genuine connections with those who appreciate you for exactly who you are. In these moments, you discover that the most powerful relationships are formed not through conformity, but through the shared vulnerability of being real. By standing firm in your identity, you become a beacon for others who might be struggling to find their own voice. Your willingness to embrace your individuality not only liberates you, but also inspires those around you to embark on their own journeys of self-acceptance. The ripple effect of one person's courage to live authentically can transform communities, challenge societal norms, and pave the way for a future where differences are celebrated rather than shunned. Every act of authenticity contributes to a larger movement, a celebration of diversity, and a collective refusal to settle for a life that is anything less than true to oneself. Choosing to be unapologetically you is a daily commitment to honor your heart, your dreams, and your inherent worth. It means rejecting the notion that you must change or hide parts of yourself in order to be liked or accepted. It is a powerful reminder that your individuality is not a flaw to be corrected, but a masterpiece to be admired and cherished. At the end of the day, being ignored is not a reflection of your worth, it is a test of your resilience. It is a reminder that your value does not decrease just because someone fails to recognize it. Every time someone overlooks you, every time you face rejection, every time silence replaces the acknowledgement you hoped for, you have a choice. You can let it break you, or you can let it build you. You can shrink in the shadows of doubt, or you can rise in the light of your own power. The truth is, no one has the authority to define your significance except you. You are not invisible, no matter who chooses not to see you. Rejection is not a loss. It is a redirection towards something better. Silence speaks louder than words. It reveals who truly values you and who does not. Pain, when used correctly, becomes fuel for greatness, pushing you to evolve and rise beyond expectations. And most importantly, the most powerful thing you can ever do is remain unapologetically yourself. So if someone ignores you, let them. If they fail to recognize your worth, let them. If they do not see your value, let them. Because the right people will, the right opportunities will, and when the time is right, the world will have no choice but to notice the unstoppable force that you have become.